ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears. It is time for a corny little speech on a place known as the world's largest bird feeder, or better known as the world's only corn palace in Mitchell, South Dakota. I am sure that most of you have gone on a vacation and have stopped at a wacky tourist attraction. As a 4-year veteran tour guide of the Corn Palace, I have come to appreciate this historic structure. The Corn Palace has an interesting story to be told. Telling its story is a matter of explaining its origins, the reactions of other communities to its existence, and the annual rebirth of its iconic displays. All 3 of my main points shed light on the story, but I will first talk about why this building was created. To understand the Corn Palace's unique story, it is important to look at why it was made in the first place. The Corn Belt Exposition Program states that the reason for building Mitchell's Corn Palace was to show off the area's agricultural possibilities. At the start, they used both grains and grasses as well as corn on the building to show off the fertile soil of South Dakota. It offered positive reasons for people to visit and potentially live in Mitchell. Another reason the Corn Palace was built was to bring more people to Mitchell. The town population had just reached 3,000 and was slowing to a plateau. 2 men, Elo Gale and Louis Beckwith, prominent Mitchell businessmen and boosters, pushed for continued population growth for Mitchell, also according to the Corn Palace Exposition Program. They seized upon the idea of a corn palace as a way to demonstrate the agricultural cornucopia that was the Great Plains, in opposition to earlier reports that the region was a little more than a wind-blown and arid wasteland. What better way to demonstrate the abundance of corn and other row crops in South Dakota than to cover the walls of its public buildings in its agricultural surplus? To this day, the Corn Palace continues to bring people back each year to view its ever-changing agricultural displays. Another aspect of how the Corn Palace's story was so interesting was how surrounding towns reacted to its success and its throng of tourists that visited each year. According to the Mitchell Daily Republican, on September 23, 1893, 2 Midwestern towns had slightly different reactions. Sioux City, Iowa had their own yearly Corn Palace from 1887 to 1891. Remember, Mitchell started their Corn Palace in 1892. Sioux City was a little angry and mentioned copyright issues with the idea of a palace made of corn. After they saw what Mitchell had done with their more permanent palace, they admitted that this place was even better than their own. Sioux City had accepted the fact that Mitchell had improved on their basic concept of a corn palace. Plankington, South Dakota had a different story. They started a grain palace that lasted briefly from 1891 to 1892, just 24 miles from Mitchell. Plankington residents were agitated and jealous of the success that Mitchell's structure and festival received. They claimed that the Corn Palace had stolen attention from their own palace. They began to boycott Mitchell merchants. To make amends, Mitchell's Corn Palace Committee sent a group to the Grain Palace celebration on opening day in 1892, as told by the Mitchell Daily Republican as well. The 2 towns, although perturbed by the sudden success by the small town of Mitchell, began to realize that not only was it bringing people to Mitchell, it was also bringing people to the Midwest, and thus to them. Continuing that demographic attraction, both permanent residents and especially tourists, has required a constant updating of the palace made of corn. This process is essentially unchanged from the 1890s. In the current Corn Palace brochure, it says that the current mural designs a picture that is to scale at the actual size of the border mural. From there, after its approval, it gets blown up onto blackboard paper into a corn by number fashion. From there, the beginning, that's how things went. A committee recommends themes to the artists, and the artists have included Oscar Howe and Cal Schultz, among other prominent figures. The artist then designs murals consistent with these themes. After final committee approval, the artist creates the corn by number blueprint onto the huge wall displays. The cobs, with kernels still on them, still attached, they are cut in half lengthwise to create a flat edge and to double the supply of corn. The corn is not glued to the wall, it is nailed and stapled into the artist's drawn blocks. The finishing of the murals proved to be an exciting time for Mitchell. From there, the corn goes up only 1 mural at a time, so tourists always have something to see. The imagery is enhanced through 13 different colors of corn on the Corn Palace, including red, blue, purple, green, and even midnight. The result is a pixelated maze, decades ahead of the more modern version when computer and television screens. In many ways, the Corn Palace was well ahead of its time. It's in innovation marketing, in intercommunity mediation, and in artist display. Different than, more than a tourist trap, much more than a bird and squirrel feeder. It is truly a palace, one of the world's largest and most innovative folklore displays, a monument to kitsch and artistry at the same time. It is an amazing story. The Corn Palace story was told through why it was done, how surrounding towns reacted to it, and how it gets redone each year. The Corn Palace's story has an interesting story to be told. So instead of treating the tourist attraction as a simple tourist trap, actually take time to learn about its history, no matter how corny it may be.